I know what you guys are probably thinking right now. Finally, I'm reviewing something that's not a Fender. Yeah, well, guess what, motherfucker? So the Gretsch Princess is a guitar that I've just always had a soft spot for. I've been a huge fan of this artist named Biabadoobie since I was in middle school, I want to say. And around that time, she would regularly post videos on Instagram with her playing an original early 60s white Gretsch Princess, which she still has to this day. I've always wondered just how exactly she even obtained a guitar like this, but she still won't answer my texts, so I guess I'll never find out. Now, to this day, Gretsch Princesses are pretty much unobtainable as they just weren't a super popular model at the time, and there just aren't very many out there in the world. They were originally intended to be a model designed for girls, specifically with a smaller, lightweight, curvy body compared to the typical Gretsch models at the time, a shorter scale length of 22.5 inches, and most notably, a built-in cushion on the back for comfort. Yeah, and say what you want about this now super wacky sounding design, but I just think it's super cool. So yeah, they're super rare now, and if you somehow find one out in the wild, it can go for anywhere between $4,000 to $20,000. So when Gretsch announced that they would be making an affordable, limited edition Princess last year, I got so excited. Then I found out what they meant by limited edition. They immediately sold out upon release, and although as I'm recording this, there's 2 used ones on Reverb at the moment, I highly doubt you'll be able to find this guitar anywhere within a few months. This thing is rare. When I missed out on its initial release, I was pretty heartbroken. I mean, one of my favorite guitars of all time is the Squier JAZZMASTER JAZZMASTER, if you couldn't already tell. And they literally just combined that guitar design with a Gretsch Princess and just made this beautiful abomination of a signature guitar. Luckily, one day after chemistry, I just decided to visit one of my favorite local guitar shops, Lightning Joe's Guitar Heaven. Seriously, if you live in Southern California and you somehow haven't been there, please go outside. And just by sheer chance and luck, they just had one of these like 3 months after release, and I just purchased it without question. So this is the Gretsch Jack Antonoff signature Electromatic Princess Corvette model. And if you have no idea who Jack Antonoff is, me neither, so who cares? No, but seriously, this guy has won 10 Grammys and has done an absolutely insane amount of production work and songwriting for literally a vast majority of the biggest pop artists and bands over the last 2 decades. And say what you want about modern pop music, but if you're around my age and you have a girlfriend, this dude has probably written and produced at least 80% of the music they listen to, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's genuinely so impressive. Anyway, back to the guitar itself. It has a solid alder body and is finished in a color that they call vintage white, which is identical to Fender's Olympic white, and it has a gloss poly finish. The neck is a bolt-on C-shaped maple neck with a satin finish and a vintage tint. It has a 25.5 inch scale length, a bound rosewood fingerboard, 22 medium jumbo nickel frets, and a 7.25 inch radius. Up here we have a bone nut and a matching headstock. Now, the tuners on mine are different from the ones that come stock. The tuners were some of the worst I had ever tried, so I immediately upgraded them to these Kluson cream tuners. More on that later. Back to the body, it comes with a set of what Gretsch calls custom wound Fidelisonic single coil pickups. If you've ever played a Gretsch before, then you know that they just have very unique sounding pickups that just never sound like how they look, and these are no different. They sound nothing like P90s to me. There's an entire JAZZMASTER rhythm circuit on this side, along with a kill switch, and the bridge is a Mustang style bridge, and there's an unbranded JAZZMASTER vibrato unit with a locking mechanism. Now, Squier JAZZMASTERs and Jaguars don't have the locking mechanism like this one, so it's not the exact same unit that comes on those classic vibe models, but I would say the quality is about on par with those. And if I had the money and time, I would absolutely just change this out for a better quality unit. More on that later. Overall, visually, there's a lot of obvious design cues taken straight from the JAZZMASTER's JAZZMASTER, and ultimately, it's just such a cool look. It's just so unconventional looking while still maintaining that classy vintage Gretsch/Fender vibe. I just love how it looks. It doesn't come with a gig bag or a case, but honestly, I'm pretty sick of all the bags and cases that I don't need, but just end up getting stuck with all the stuff I buy. And no, that's not me just trying to be like, oh, look at me and all the shit I buy. No, I mean, if I want a gig bag, then I'll go out and buy one that actually looks the way I want and suits my specific needs and function. I've never really cared for cases that come with guitars. They're usually just super like neutral looking or just super cheap. And if the price of the guitar can be cheaper if it doesn't come with some bullshit I didn't ask for, then I'm all for it. Anyway, on to the sound demos. I focused more on clean to light overdrive tones, as that's what this guitar is definitely best at. The pickups are pretty noisy, and distortion and high gain are just nearly unusable on on this guitar with the amount of noise and feedback it creates. And yes, this guitar is properly grounded and shielded, but at the same time, I mean, if you're somehow buying one of these guitars, you're probably not going to be playing Iron Maiden. So I just tried to highlight the best kind of sounds most people will probably want to get out of this guitar. I'll give my full opinions and thoughts after the sound demo. As per usual, I'm playing through a Fender Twin Reverb, and here's just a quick look at my pedal board. Not going to go through every single little pedal and setting that I use for each tone because I hate you. And yeah, here's some clean tones. Okay, so hopefully you got a good idea of how this guitar sounds. Due to the low volume, super controlled nature of just doing sound demos at home, I don't think the demos did complete justice as to how noisy this thing is in a live setting, so just be mindful of that. The last thing I want to do is to be misleading. As I mentioned earlier, these don't totally sound like P90s to me, they really just are their own thing. They kind of remind me of how Fender wide range humbuckers sound. They just have this sound that's bigger than like a normal single coil sound, but not quite as fat or hot as a humbucker or P90. It stays relatively clean and there's a lot of high-end clarity, which should be no surprise if you're already familiar with Gretsch pickups. They just have this unique sort of chimey, airy, clean sound to them that's just something you have to hear and play for yourself in person if you're used to just like Fender and Gibson style guitars. Visually, I love how this guitar looks, and on paper, I love the price, but being a made in China affordable model does have its drawbacks, and I don't say that to dog on import models. Some of my favorite guitars are import models, but just objectively speaking, you have to realize that some corners were cut with the hardware that was chosen that wouldn't be the case if this was made in Japan, for example. Unfortunately, even after a good setup, in its stock form, this guitar just suffers heavily from tuning instability if you use the vibrato unit at all. The tuners that came stock on this thing were absolute junk, and I just changed them immediately. They just felt super loose and super cheap. After doing so, I feel like this only fixed half the problem, as I think the tuning stability is a combination of the cheap tuners and the vibrato unit. The vibrato unit is super cheap feeling, and I would say feels about the same if not worse quality than Squier offset vibratos. I'm certain that if I upgraded this to a more stable unit, this would probably fix the tuning issues, but honestly, I just don't have the money or time to do so. All that being said, luckily this comes with a locking mechanism unlike Squier's, and if you just lock it and don't use the whammy bar at all, then tuning is not really an issue after changing the tuners. I had mine locked down for the duration of this video just so it would stay in tune for you guys, and it was genuinely painful, as my favorite part of JAZZMASTER style guitars is the vibrato unit, and that was kind of like half the point of me buying this guitar. Anyway, the knobs and switches all feel fine. I have no problem with any of that stuff. The neck is super comfortable, and if you're familiar with a Squier J-Mascis neck, then it feels very, very similar to that other than the radius difference. I would have preferred a 9.5 inch radius. I wouldn't say that the 7.25 inch radius really hinders your playing at all. It's just more down to like a nitpicky personal preference. I just would have preferred something a little flatter. But overall, I think this guitar is such a cool idea in design, but it just ultimately wasn't executed well with the hardware that they chose. This guitar would probably be super solid after you just change the tuners and vibrato unit and do a good setup, but that's up to you if that's even worth it. For me, it's not. It was cool to own and play for about 4 minutes, but by the time this video is uploaded, I probably will have already sold it. Just trying to be completely honest with you guys, you know, not everything is all cookies and cream. But yeah, if you're on the hunt for one of these, honestly, I think your money would be better spent elsewhere. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this guitar. So yeah, you can go away now. Go on, shoo, go, come on, go. Go on, click on another video, you know, go do something else, go outside, get some fresh air, maybe actually play your guitar instead of just sitting around and watching videos and planning to buy stuff. You can go away now. Like, you can stop watching this video. If you're still watching this, I don't I don't like, I'm done with the guitar. I'm done talking about the thing that you came for me to talk about. Okay, if you're still here, this is just sad. Like, what are you doing right now? All right, I'm just out of sheer pity, like, I'm just gonna end this video. Okay, so bye.